Hello, and welcome to my review of the Master Grade Sword Impulse Gundam. So right out of the box, you're going to get the Master Grade Impulse Gundam in its red color scheme, 2 beam boomerangs, 2 effect parts, and an attachment point, a beam rifle, 2 switch knives, a shield, a core splendor, a backpack mounting point, 2 giant Excalibur anti-ship swords, and 2 pieces of effect parts each. You'll also get some foil stickers for the eyes and cameras, as well as some stickers and dry transfer decals, a pilot figure of Shin Asuka and Lunamaria Hawk, an additional pair of posable hands, the head of the sword silhouette and a stand to display it on the ground, and a collection of landing gears and action-based attachment points if you choose to display it in its split-up form. So in terms of the Master Grade Impulse Gundam itself, I wasn't a big fan of the Impulse Gundam in the anime. It just felt kind of like a Strike ripoff. But here in the Master Grade, I have to say it's really grown on me. I think Bandai did a really good job redesigning it for the Master Grade form, making it a lot sleeker and slenderer. I think that the red color scheme really helps. You know, red's a very aggressive color, which fits in very good with the melee nature of the Sword Impulse Gundam. So here's just a quick little spin around. So in terms of articulation, the head itself is on a double ball joint, and you can kind of move it back and forth through the neck, and of course you can twist it around. There is a slight problem where the back of the helmet has this little hinge and it tends to bump into the collar of the Impulse Gundam, but generally you can pull off any kind of pose you want, looking left or right to a very reasonable degree. And it can't really look up, again, because of the hinge on the back. For the chest, this piece up here is able to move up and down, and this is for its transformation into the chest flyer. Unfortunately, the movement on the chest and the torso unit is basically non-existent because we are going to be attaching the core splendor unit into it, but we'll get to that later. Basically, there's a bit of wiggle room allowed at the waist, but that's about it. No fancy ab crunches, nothing like that. For the arm unit, it is capable of spinning 360 degrees, and the arm itself can bend a very nice solid 180. A bit of moving parts here, slides around, very nice. The wrist is a standard ball joint, it can rotate 360 degrees, and because of the way it's attached to the arm's capable of flicking the wrist a bit, which I really like. It seems very crucial to posing the giant swords very well. And the shoulders does have a gimmick where it can pull out and slightly slide out, but this is mainly, again, for the chest flyer transformation. For the lower half of the Gundam, the front skirts will flip up, and the Impulse can do a very solid kick, no problem. The back skirts is similarly able to flip up all the way, and the Impulse Gundam can also kick the foot back 90 degrees, no problem. Now for the side skirts, you can open them up, and you're able to slide the little army knives in there. Unfortunately, they aren't quite as mobile as the front and back skirts, and the Impulse won't quite be getting any 180 degree splits. But for the actual legs themselves, if we bend the front skirts up again, kick up, we can do a very nice solid 180 degree bend. The armor on the thighs and the knee here all split apart, very nice. And for the very bottom of the Gundam, the ankles have a decent range of mobility. The ankle armor here moves up and down, purely for aesthetics. If you lift them up all the way, you can reveal some pistons. And like all seed kits, the feet here will fold down for that kind of tippy-toe aerial pose. So here's just a quick little look at the beam rifle. It's pretty standard, just 2 pieces slapped together. There's going to be a little hole here to attach it into the hand. A little handle that swings around. A scope that also swings around, a nice little red piece for detail here, and on the back there's going to be a little plug that allows it to plug into the back of the waist. So here is the shield of the Impulse Gundam, which I have to say for a Gundam shield is pretty interesting in that it expands out, but here in its collapse form it's pretty nice, pretty compact. It's got the shield pattern of the original Gundam. On the back it's just plain gray with some dark gray parts to attach it into the arm. There's usually a handle here, you can use it to actually grip onto the Gundam hand itself, but I accidentally lost it. Fortunately, I don't think I'm going to be using this in its grip form anyway, so not too big of a loss for me. So onto the actual transformation, you just slide both parts down, revealing the gray piece underneath. And then on the back, there's going to be 2 tabs you can use to pull out, and it'll reveal a little peek hole the impulse can use to shoot. So here is a shield boomerang. It's pretty standard. It can hold onto the handle just fine. And if you attach the effect part in, you can get a very intimidating looking beam boomerang. But when it's not being used, it will be stored on the back. You get 2 of them, and they just plug in like so. Very solid. And there is a bit of movement here. It can flip up and down, and up and down. But the main reason you're buying the Sword Impulse Gundam is obviously for its swords, and this is the Excalibur anti-ship sword. Absolutely massive. It's even a good bit taller than the Gundam itself. And this is in its compact mode, which we can very easily just slide open. And now it's in its full form. You get all the pieces here, and you can very easily just insert in the effect part. Like so. And you get the full effect. In addition, for the tip, you get another effect part to kind of elicit a kind of ramming motion. Of course, you do get 2 of these, and you can very easily combine them to get a massive double-bladed anti-ship sword. And as mentioned, you will get 2 of these army knives. Just like the strikes, you can deploy them as a knife, or you can fold them together and store them in the side skirts. So this is the Core Splendor, which is basically a glorified core fighter. You can fold up and attach into the abdomen of the Impulse Gundam. It's very nicely detailed. I like the blue parts and the red trim. The pilot figure is going to be a pilot suit, so you can paint it up either as the Luna Maria or the Shin color scheme. But as for transforming it, you're going to drop these 2 missiles, fold the wings back, fold the nose in, and then fold the entire cockpit forward. And now you're ready to combine into the Impulse Gundam. But first things first, you might have noticed on the back of the Impulse Gundam is a little adapter, and this is actually an adapter for any kind of striker pack, so the Ale Striker, Sword Striker, Striker Noir, etc. The Impulse Gundam does come with this, and it serves kind of as like a base backpack. But in order to connect the Core Splendor, we're going to pop the Gundam in half. So in this way, we can take the strike adapter off and expose a very, very empty chest cavity. And on the lower half, you're going to show off some mechanisms, and mainly here you're going to have these grooves, which fit into the front little wings of the Core Splendor, like so. And then you're just going to attach the rest of the Gundam body on. It can take a bit of fiddling, but eventually you will get a very nice, satisfying lock. And now you have the Sword Impulse Gundam all ready to launch. And for mounting the swords onto the back, we're going to be using the special backpack, which will have 2 grooves here, specifically for the Excalibur swords. And they are on this hinge that can swing up and down and give it just a bit of mobility. The swords will slide on so, and here is an attachment point for the giant beam boomerangs, and this will attach on very easily. The positioning of the swords and the boomerang isn't very locked into place. It's prone to kind of sliding around, so you'll have to actively make sure that's all lined up. But once you do, there's going to be these attachment points that should attach into the back of the Impulse Gundam. Attaching the shield is as simple as inserting the attachment point. If you split the fist apart, there is a tab that will go very nicely into the hole on the handle of the beam rifle, so it holds on very well, and then you just slide the cover back on. And of course, last but not least, so all armed up, it's pretty tame for a seed kit, especially with the very minimalistic backpack, but I really like it. You can really tell that he's designed to be a melee unit, and then he's going to grab those anti-ship swords off the backpack and beat up your ships with J-pop running in the background. For a comparison, here's the Master Grade Airstrike Gundam version remastered. Both the Impulse and the Strike Gundam in canon are about 17 to 18 meter tall Gundams. And as you can see here, their head heights are just about the same. And here he is next to the 19 meter tall Jesta. There's definitely a bit of height difference there. He has no problem holding aiming down the beam rifle pose. Though I think he'll leave the beam rifles to his P-Bandai counterpart. If you swap in the more dynamic hands, you can get a very intimidating reaching over his shoulder to grab his anti-ship swords pose. And thanks to the maneuverability of the backpack, you can get an even more cool pose, grabbing both swords at the same time. The size of these things is frankly ridiculous. I don't think I'm going to be able to fit all these poses in my photo booth here. Yeah, this is getting a bit ridiculous. Having some trouble doing spin arounds because the sword keeps bumping into the backdrop. Also, surprisingly easy to get the box art, but you're probably not fitting the entire sword onto the screen. I think this guy will go surprisingly well on action base, which you can do by removing this part on the bottom of his crotch and getting this frankly huge action base attachment piece wedged up in there. And you can even slide this back in. And then you can take the action base and of course attach it. Definitely pretty cool. If you ignore the fact that that's a unicorn base. My real grade full armor unicorn desperately needs its action base back, but I'm actually very impressed that it can hold a similar pose, but on the ground. So now for some of my final thoughts, as well as pros and cons on the Master Grade Sword Impulse Gundam. So I think this is a fantastic kit, almost a must-have if you like these kind of over-the-top kits. I wasn't a big fan of the Impulse Gundam before, but this Master Grade kit has definitely made me one. I think one of the big reasons is that the anti-ship swords, whether combined or just split off in two, has a massive shelf presence. It's absolutely massive and it looks great. Of course, that does lead into the small caveat that if you have a limited shelf space, you can't really display it in one of its more extravagant poses. But I think another point of why this kit was so enjoyable to pose was that it's very solid. It has the gimmick of being able to transform into the chest flyer and the core splendor and whatnot, but overall the kit itself is very solid. It didn't go for any other crazy gimmicks. It is a relatively old kit, but it's simple, it's solid, probably because Bandai knew they could make 3 of them, and it poses very well with the sword, and posing it is a lot of fun. You can go very balls to the walls with it. Now going into the con, as I mentioned before, it does have one gimmick with the whole transformation thing, and that really limits the amount of mobility in the chest area. Mainly because there's a block in there, it can't do any ab crunches, something fancy like that. But I think in this case, it might be a bit of a blessing in disguise, just because the sword itself is very heavy. And if you want to do some dynamic poses with it, having a very solid block for a body can make the pose very stable and hold on to it. But other than that, I think this kit is fantastic. There's a lot of extras, which I'll be going over in the next part. How the kit transforms into the core splendor, chest flyer, and silhouette unit and leg flyers. So yeah, stay tuned for more. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.